I might have done something really stupid. This is not a sponsored video and I'm not particularly wealthy, but I have been known to take some risks, and approximately 30% of the time they seem to pan out every single time. Hey guys, I'm Frost. I've been streaming over on Twitch now for a few years. I recently made a jump over to YouTube and started uploading Let's Play content. Like most YouTubers, I'm always looking at ways to improve the quality of the content that I'm creating. Now that we just had new lines of GPUs and CPUs released, I think it's about time that we had an upgrade. It's 2025. I think it's safe to say that we now all use AI in our day-to-day lives, even when we aren't aware of it. Whether it be searching the web, ChatGPT, using your phone, we use AI every day to make the impossible possible. We've grown to rely on it, but would you trust it with all of your money? Everything that you've saved. Would you trust it to design your God-tier PC? Would you trust it, say, with $7,000? Here's how it works. 1. Whatever ChatGPT decides goes. I cannot intervene or veto any components, even if the build sucks or is aesthetically ugly. 2. As the top GPUs and CPUs are almost completely sold out everywhere right now, or being sold by scalpers for horrifically bloated prices, it's impossible for me to source parts individually. So everything must be sourceable via PC Specialist. Again, I'm not affiliated with them, but their range, pricing, stock availability, and payment flexibility is the only way this PC is getting built. 3. I will feed ChatGPT screenshots of every component sold by PC Specialist and ask it to make the best possible build from that selection. And trust me, there is a lot to choose from. As I was compiling the full component selection, I was feeling quite hopeful about what kind of dream machine AI was going to cook up. But when I considered the risks, I realized there's no guarantee that the case it chooses is going to be big enough. In fact, there's no guarantee that the components are even going to be compatible with each other. This is such a bad idea. My fate was sealed. It's here! And by it, I don't mean this. No, this, in fact, arrived about a week ago. I figured that if I'm going to be playing on the greatest ever gaming rig, I need a monitor that's going to be up to scratch. ChatGPT gave me 5 options, all with their own merits and eye-watering price tags, but this machine is supposed to be the greatest gaming PC. And as soon as I asked AI to narrow down which would be best, it was locked in, even if it meant that I had to go on an involuntary diet for a while. This is the 4K OLED 240Hz 32-inch HDR curved Alienware gaming monitor. It's compatible with Dolby Vision, both G-Sync and FreeSync, with a 0.03 millisecond response time, which is even faster than it took me to realize that I can't afford to pay my mortgage this month.
I am never going to financially recover from this.
So now we have what AI tells us is the best gaming monitor. Let's take a look at the machine that it's going to be using it. Is it going to be a masterpiece or an abomination? ChatGPT set me up with a brand new AMD Ryzen 9 9950X 3D to combine the best gaming and productivity CPU on the market. That's working with the MSI Gaming Trio overclocked RTX 5090 with a ridiculous 32GB of VRAM. This is the latest and greatest CPU out there. This thing will allow me to get better performance in 4K with max settings than I've ever been able to achieve in standard HD. GeForce. Have you seen the price tag of these things right now? We have 32 gigabytes of Corsair Dominator titanium DDR5 RAM at 7,200 megahertz. I mean, who the hell needs RAM that fast? All of this is running from the ASUS ROG X870E Hero. That is a $600 motherboard. I'm not sure who needs to hear this, but you don't need a $600 motherboard. But it is really cool. This monster would be breathing fire if it wasn't being kept on ice with its LCD liquid AIO and 10 case fans. I'll be real for a sec, 7 of the case fans were all the iCUE RX 120s, but for some reason, AI decided to keep 3 of them as stock Lee & Lee case fans, which, you know, are perfectly fine, but I guess ChatGPT didn't get the memo about aesthetics, which just meant more unnecessary spending. It looks the part, it sounds the part, but does it play the part? It's time for some testing. I've loaded up its 4TB Samsung 990 Pro NVMe drive with some pretty hefty games, some of which I've certainly had to make some performance over quality compromises with in the past. So as a blanket rule with all the games in this test, everything will be played in 4K with absolutely max settings, including ray or path tracing if it's available. To answer the question of whether or not I'll be using frame generation in this test, you goddamn right I will be. The way I see things, if it performs better and they look real, how do I care if they're a little bit enhanced? Anyway, AI built this thing. Let's call it poetic. First up, we have Indiana Jones. The story-rich adventure game based on the popular movie franchise quickly developed a reputation for being extremely demanding. Even with some of the higher grade 40 series cards, playing this on max settings in 2K could dip as low as 60 FPS. And that's totally fine for most gamers, but when people were paying for the higher tier cards, they didn't expect performance to drop to what many players now consider the bare minimum, and that's before they even looked at 4K. Now, with the 5090, the game looks the best it ever has done in 4K. I mean, this is truly stunning. But bearing in mind what the previous gen cards have been dealing with, the performance here is nothing short of impressive. Jumping around 100 to 120 FPS, my only gripe in my experience is the super high latency in this game caused by frame generation. But in a single player game like this, I can't really say that I noticed it. It's also pretty jarring when it jumps down to 30 FPS for a cutscene, but this is a game set bottleneck irrespective of what hardware you're running. I love adventure games. I had a lot of fun with this game and have a full playthrough available now on the channel. Next, we have Wreckfest 2. I loved the first game, and the successor to the reimagined Destruction Derby Racer is now available in early access on Steam. I thought being in early access, it would be a good wildcard to run as it's not yet fully optimized, with only being able to select 4K resolution and an ultra settings preset. There is no DLSS, frame generation, or ray tracing here. This is just raw rasterization. The game is super pretty. The cars handle better than ever, and they've overhauled the physics and the damage to the cars. Something like a leaking radiator will now cause progressive damage until the head gasket blows and cripples the car's performance. It adds an extra dynamic that I don't think any of us knew it needed, but it works really well. The game performs amazingly on the 5090. The FPS bounces around quite a bit between 160 and 240, which I suppose with the damage model and 24 cars packed into the track is to be somewhat expected, but with performance this high, you can't even notice. Interestingly, now we have frame gen turned off, the latency looks really good at around 10 milliseconds. This game is super fun with both online and offline racing available, but whilst in early access, it's understandably very content bare right now. With only 4 cars and a few tracks to choose from, I cannot wait for this game to fill out a little bit more. I thought it'd be worth checking out how the PC handles competitive gaming, and at the top of the list right now is Marvel Rivals. I'm a huge Marvel fan, so a well-balanced Overwatch-style game with my favorite Marvel characters was a must for me as soon as I heard about it. The latency on this game is really low, and that's super important for a competitive multiplayer. As for the performance, the art style for this game looks great without being too demanding, so I'd regularly see the game sitting around 300 to 400 FPS, which is far more than I'm ever going to need. Season 2 has recently launched, and I'm eager to see if all these extra frames are what I've been missing to be finally good at the game. Next up, potentially a surprising choice, we have Jedi Survivor. This game is a few years old now, but has always been praised for looking super pretty, but also running pretty poorly. I played this game when it first released and absolutely fell in love with it, skyrocketing its way to my all-time top 5 games. When I originally played it on a 10GB RTX 3080, I was really pushing its limits when playing on Ultra and 2K, often sitting around 50 FPS that would drop to 30 with ray tracing. This showcase introduction to the single-player story was notoriously tough on systems, but as you can see here, we're sitting around 180 FPS. The 10 case fans are keeping the GPU considerably cooler than expected. Even the power consumption is lower than what the card is used to churning out. I remember absolutely loving the game, but due to a previous health issue, I have no memory of the story at all anymore. I can't wait to play this again live on Twitch, and I'll be uploading the 4K Let's Play right here. Going a bit older now, a game that never ran particularly poorly but has always looked and played amazing. Red Dead Redemption 2. The game looks stunning as ever in 4K, especially on this OLED Dolby Vision HDR monitor. Sitting at around 140 FPS during action scenes, it runs buttery smooth throughout. Note again how the temps and power consumption and latency are all running low, which I suppose is to be somewhat expected for an older title like this, but seeing how far below its stress levels that it's operating, it's really good to see a game that plays as good as this. Red Dead Redemption 2 is up there as probably my favorite story game of all time, and seeing it run this well might just be the excuse I needed to pick it up and play through all over again. Of course, the final test has to be Cyberpunk 2077. Even with DLSS, this game is notoriously hard to run, especially in 4K. And once you introduce path tracing into the mix, for most people, it's no bueno. This version of Cyberpunk looked breathtakingly realistic. When I originally loaded it up, I was averaging an easy 150 FPS, which goes to show what a game changer AI frame generation really is. But that's why I wanted to go a step further. What you see here is the Dreampunk 2.0 mod, accompanied by texture mods and busy traffic mods. In 4K, most gamers would struggle to see their frames in double figures, yet here we are, still averaging over 100 FPS. As you can see, the GPU here is pretty maxed out, at over 70 degrees Celsius and a power draw of over 570 watts. Thankfully, ChatGPT had us more than absolutely covered by shoehorning in a Corsair HXI 1500 watt platinum PSU. It's absolutely overkill. We could run a second 5090 through this thing and still have headroom. So other than going pretty overboard with some of the components and some pretty curious style choices, it seems like ChatGPT has done a pretty decent job at designing a celestial level PC. And with everything that's crammed into this build, I've got to give a lot of credit to PC Specialist. The build quality and cable management is so much better than anything I could have done. I totally show you how much they've managed to safely hide, but this rig weighs over 60 pounds. I'm not moving this thing ever again. This thing performs better than I'd ever dreamed. I even tried PC VR, and now everything runs on max settings and max FPS. My Quest 3 is the bottleneck in my setup, which, by the way, I'm absolutely fine with. Rounding off my final thoughts, I can't possibly regret any of this. And if you want my answer to whether I'd recommend asking ChatGPT to build you a PC with all your money, no. This was a really dumb idea. ChatGPT literally warns you not to do this kind of thing. I had so much more to lose than I had to gain. I don't even have sponsors to cover my losses. I only have 60 subscribers, which, by the way, you could change if you don't mind. If you can drop a like and a comment too about what you think to the build, anything that you would change, I'd super appreciate it. So until next time, thank you so much for watching. Peace, love, and stay frosty.